Hello, welcome to a top whatever type video. This is my top 15 best. Top 15 DC Rebirth titles. Not top 15. Now, there is one dishonorable mention I have to mention before I get started with this. And that's a book that a lot of people probably agree or disagree with me that this title was just not as good as it once was. Just that it's okay. It's just that it's got good artwork. It doesn't have good writing with it. And that's Justice League. The book is 8 issues in. And I'm trying to think, why in the world is Bryan Hitch writing this title? Excuse me. The guy himself is not that good of a writer. He is a good artist. Don't get me wrong. Bryan Hitch is a good artist. It's just that, come on. Really? Bryan Hitch? A guy who can't get a book come on time? Yeah. I had to throw that out there. For the honorable mentions, and there are 6 honorable mentions. Good series, just not. They just missed being part of my top 15, and those are Trinity by Francis Manapul. Good title, just barely missed it. This one actually really barely missed it. Batman by Tom King. Good book. It's just that, well, these books are also good, and this one also just missed it as well. Another really good title, Batman Beyond. One of the reasons why I didn't put this one on the list because it's only 1 issue in, so I can't exactly say, and it didn't exactly bigly wow me as a couple other books, which are like 1 or 2 issues in, yet the book did wow me. But I had to mention it. Another one is, if I can get some stop popping up on here. Next one is Gotham Academy Second Semester. Excuse me, I have itchy nose. This one, still just as good as his original title, but yeah, just as good. But this one, unlike the other one, unlike Batman and Trinity, this one basically didn't make the list. It's still a good title. Don't get me wrong, it's still a good title. It's just that of these honorable mentions, this one actually is the one that actually I was thinking to put on the list, but there was another book that kind of beat it, which I'll get to soon. And the last book is All-Star Batman. Now, this book, I actually do enjoy this book. There's not a lot of people who like this book simply because Jarmian Jr. is on the artwork for the book. Me, I enjoy it. And plus, Jarmian Jr. himself actually does fit Batman. So, those are my 6 honorable mentions. Now half of these books just barely missed beyond my list. There are 3 a little bit more missing. Alright. Number 15, Blue Beetle. Even though this book is 2 issues in, it's actually pretty good. I'm actually enjoying it, especially since Keith Giffen is writing the book. Even I told Tony Bedard that having Keith Giffen back in the book again, the book is back. He actually agrees with me that when John Rogers, the guy who was Keith Giffen's co-writer when he brought this book back in 2006, and then of course John Rogers took over as the writer of the book. He really did enjoy that book. This book feels like it's the same type of tone as 2 volumes before Blue Beetle. The first volume to feature Jaime Reyes as the Blue Beetle for the Blue Beetle ongoing series. So, yeah, good series so far. Looking forward to when the next issue comes out. Alright, next is Teen Titans. Now this one actually this one, I was very much impressed with this first issue. Excuse me. I was very much impressed with this first issue of the series. So I figured I was more impressed than I was with Blue Beetle #1 because it's such an enjoyable thing to read, and I'm looking forward to next issue. And it's written by Ben Percy. who's the same writer as another book of it, which is on my list. But I decided to throw Teen Titans on here simply because, for the first time in a while, even though Tony Bedard's book is fine, but as for number ones, mind you, of the past 5 years for Teen Titans, this one's the best one of the three. I mean, as far as I've heard, it's getting positive reception so far. So, yeah, and I really enjoyed issue 1. I'm looking forward to issue 2 when it comes out. All right. Number 13, Hellblazer. Probably, and this is quite bizarre for DC Comics, this is the only supernatural title that is part of the DC Rebirth lineup. Yeah, it is. It is by far the only one. I'm thinking, though, that's a bit odd. I'm thinking, though, oh, well, I know there is the miniseries, Dead Man, Dark Mansion, but that's a limited series. As for an ongoing series, there's only one. When New 52 started, there were several there were several supernatural based titles. Books like Animal Man, Swamp Thing, Justice League Dark. I'm trying to think what other supernatural based titles were there. There were a few of them. And later on came Constantine. There was also Trinity of Sin, Phantom Stranger, Trinity of Sin, Pandora, supernatural based titles. And now we're down to one. It's kind of a shame for DC Comics not to have another supernatural-based series around. I mean, there's a few, basically, where I would love to see come back as an ongoing series. Books like, maybe Animal Man can come back as an ongoing series. That's a possibility, along with Swamp Thing. Maybe another Justice League Dark series. Yep. So, yeah. I really wish that's topic on me. Okay, but yeah, still good title, but still kind of wish DC had more than one supernatural-based title as an ongoing series. All right, number 12, The Flash, by Joshua Williamson. This title is just a blast, especially the most recent issue when they brought in the Shade of all people. Yeah, the Shade. First time this guy has appeared since his limited series that ended back in 2012, that was written by James Robinson, the guy who made the character awesome. Even though he looks different for some reason he's got like demons surrounding him, his face looks different, but dress-wise, he's definitely the Shade by the way he dresses. The top hat, the suit, the dark cane stuff. Yes. Yeah, I'm very happy that Williamson brought him back. Even though that he had an arc that took up 8 issues, but it's still an enjoyable book. Yeah, and it's already on its second story arc already. It previously had a standalone issue, but it probably needed that after having an 8-part story arc. Yes, 8 parts. Okay? But I just had to throw that one on because that's just a good title. Number 11 is Aquaman. A title which, for some people, for a couple people I've heard from, basically where, actually one person I've heard about this, I haven't mentioned about anybody else, but they still think that the first arc is still going on. It kind of isn't, in a way. It kind of isn't, but it's still an enjoyable title. I haven't heard any really big problem. The only problem I had with it, I heard the people had with it, was they didn't like the fact politics was involved with it, the book. And pretty much, heck, the most recent issue that came out didn't feature Aquaman. It featured Mira as the star of the book. Aquaman was completely missing, which that is a big shock, especially for the Aquaman title. I mean, the title is called Aquaman, and he is nowhere in the book. This is not the first time DC has done this, where they feature a book called Aquaman, and it doesn't feature a character called Aquaman. Well, they kind of did this, I think it was, I think this was just after, it was after Infinite Crisis, from what I've read the issues, where the series was renamed briefly from Aquaman to Aquaman Sword of Atlantis, and the main Aquaman character disappeared and was replaced with a substitute named Arthur Joseph Curry. Now, they never confirmed if he was actually his son, because he was rumored to have a son with a different woman. As for, they confirmed that he was definitely not the original Aquaman people have been following previous all this time. But this is like pretty much this was the second time this has happened where DC Comics has done this, where they replaced Aquaman for like an issue. Of course, back then it was for like 15 issues they replaced him for, not just one issue. But he'll probably be back next issue. But still, good series. Moving on to number 10, Titans, also a Dan Abnett title. Even though it's still kind of in its first arc, I think it's wrapping up pretty soon. The stuff with Wally West and bringing character like Kadabra, it's a really great title. And even though some people are not really big fans of Brett Booth's artwork, I honestly don't have a problem with it in the book, especially since especially since Nightwing looks better than he does in his own title. I mean, the way he's drawn, anyways, he does kind of look a little bit better in the Titans title. He does in an ongoing series, which I'm not gonna spoil it. Okay, but this has still been a great series, and it's one of Tivia's favorite series as well, along with mine. I'm not sure how he would rank his DC Rebirth titles, but I would think that Titans would definitely be on that list because it's such a really well-written series and the fact it features Wally West and pre-Flashpoint. Okay, that was my number 10. Alright, number 9, Superwoman by Phil Jimenez. Wow. I mean, despite the fact the title is called Superwoman, it features the supporting characters from Superman. I mean, Maggie Sawyer's in the book. Lex is in the book. It seems like any character who's not Superman, or at least close to him, is featured in this book. I mean, heck, when the series first started off, it took place right after the first arc of Action Comics. Yeah, and the book itself is only about 5 issues in. And despite the fact that it was promoted to have where the post-Flashpoint Lois Lane was going to be the Superwoman of the title, but she died in issue 1 and was replaced with, well, there was 2 Superwomen, two people named Superwoman with issue 1, but pre-Flashpoint Lois, post-Flashpoint Lois died, and the other one, Lana, took over as the lead for the title, and pretty much, even though it's pretty much a Lana Lang series, and I've liked how Phil Jimenez has done the writing and artwork for this series, and I have heard he is doing the artwork for Super Sons, which is coming out next year. It's one of 2 new titles, 3 new titles that come out next year, along with Batwoman and Justice League America, which I'm looking forward to. Okay, all right. That was number 9. Number 8, and this is a tie. One of 2 ties I got on my list. And these are the 2 Green Lantern titles. Green Lanterns and Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. These 2 titles are just really well made and well done. In the case of Hal Jordan and Green Lantern Corps, it kind of does feel like that the first arc is finally wrapping up. Even though this arc has been going on for the past couple months. I mean, I think this book is like, what, about 7 issues in, I believe it is? I want to check and see about that. Just sure. This book is 8 issues in, and the first arc hasn't wrapped up yet. I'm not kidding. Is Venditti trying to stretch this arc out to 10, 12 issues? I'm like, wow. Damn, man. You really stretch this arc out. And the arc is not even finished. I think it's like 1 or 2 issues left before finally it wraps up. Now, Green Lanterns, this one is 10 issues in, and it's on its 2nd arc. Actually, scratch it. No, it's on its 3rd arc already. Which, I'm actually surprised that a title like this is already on its 3rd story arc already. Now, there is no title that's already in like 4th or 5th arc right now, but yeah, This one's already on its third, and this one involves the Phantom Ring currently. But this is still an enjoyable book, and a lot of people love this title. And who writes this title? Sam Jeffries. Now, when I heard that he was writing it, I'm like, okay, that actually does make sense. I mean, the character wrote Star-Lord, so I would think DC would know the fact the guy is good at writing cosmic characters. So, writing Green Lanterns is good, and the fact it's based on Earth, where the characters are on Earth instead of like off in space, it's good. The fact that Sam Jeffries is doing this, this kind of could explain why his run for that the Star-Lord title was relaunched #1 right after he left. Yeah, the volume ended after only 8 issues, right? Like, okay, the guy did 8 issues for Star-Lord for this volume for Star-Lord, and then he just leaves. Like, okay, I would think Marvel would actually find a new writer for the book instead of relaunching #1, but nope. We just wanted to hit that #1 so badly. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if someone developed a photo of the word Marvel and you have #1 basically just, doing it. I would not be surprised if someone actually made that photo and actually put it up on the internet. I would not be surprised someone did that. But this title was 10 issues in, 3rd story arc. Highly recommend you try it out. It's actually really good. Recently, they just brought back the First Lantern from the Wrath of the First Lantern story. I thought this character was dead, and I was like, okay, the character's alive. All right, that's good. All right, #7 is Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka, but it has 2 artists, Nicola Scott, who basically is going to wrap up her story arc with issue 10. Yeah, her arc is wrapping up with issue 12, while in the next issue that's coming out, issue 11, the live story arc is wrapping up. Now, I have heard from Liam Sharp that Nicola Scott was only contracted to do just 6 issues and then she go back to Black Magic. That's simply the way it worked. I think it's great, the fact she's doing that. And the fact that Liam Sharp is still on the book. And I did ask them about the whole thing with Greg Rucka's run. Is it like where the odd numbers are one story arc and the even numbers are a complete story arc? He says, yes, this is how the format will be for Greg Rucka's run. It will also give more artists time to do more story arcs because the book is coming out twice a month. And for some of these guys who are used to doing a month-to-month basis, excuse me, this gives them time. That's why the book looks so gorgeous. Because the artists are actually given time to actually do the work, which I do praise DC for doing this. And the book is so good. Now, the odd number story arc, that's wrapping up with the next issue. Now, that wrap up in a couple weeks because issue 10 just came out, I believe, a week or 2 ago. Yeah, I think it was last week it came out. Not this past week prior, but my guess is issue 11 might come out either this next week or the following week. It depends on how DC Comics releases their books. But, yeah, great series. Now, I know Edgar was not really into this series because he was kind of confused about the book. But I still enjoy it. And plus, I read it because Greg Rucka is one of my favorites. Next, of course, is #6, and that's Batgirl and Birds of Prey. 4 issues in. And the next issue, I think the next couple of issues was to wrap up this first story arc. Now, this one, I don't mind the fact that it's still on its first story arc because, well, it's a monthly title. It's coming out once a month, not twice a month like some of these other titles are. Though I do appreciate that. It does give the writers some time to actually develop the story and the artist to draw it. But I heard some people have a problem with the artwork due to the fact of how the noses look on the ladies. It's like, oh yeah, let's make the noses so freaking huge for really no explained reason. It doesn't really bother me that much like other people who actually review Batgirl and Birds of Prey. Me, I actually I enjoyed the book for what it is. Yeah, I do kind of agree noses are a bit of a distraction, but does take me out of the story. Oh no, it doesn't. It's still a good title. I just kind of wish the artist would not so exaggerate how big I wish that the artist of the book would really shrink down the noses, like not to the point how Tony S. Daniel or David Finch draws noses, but can you draw noses a little more small and make them actually natural size noses, not giant size noses? Yeah, but it's still a great book. All right, number 5, and this book I was highly anticipating. Heck, I bought a few issues of this book, and this book is 6 issues in, and I don't think the first arc is even wrapped up yet, and that's Deathstroke by Christopher Priest. Now, I have heard in an article of why he picked to do this particular title. Why he picked this particular title? Because it's a title where the character is not black. That is his reason. I'm like, I can kind of agree with that, because if you look at his record for the past like 20 years, most of the series he's written basically have a black character as a lead. But this is something different for him, and the book itself is really good. And it kind of feels like Gambit United States might agree with me on this. He will agree with me on this, that the book, it feels like Christopher Priest is trying to integrate stuff from pre-Flashpoint Deathstroke into this one. This is something that people wanted to see, like have stuff from post-Flashpoint in the past 5 years integrated with stuff from pre-Flash. Just like squeeze it together a little bit. That's what Christopher Priest is doing. Heck, he brought in Bill Wintergreen, a character who was killed by Jeff Johns during his Teen Titans run. Rose Wilson is a supporting character, a little more than usual, but it's still a great series, and I've already bought a few issues of it already. It's a great title, yeah, and it's one of my personal favorite titles to read from DC Rebirth. All right, number 4, and my second tie, Nightwing by Tim Seeley and Green Arrow by Ben Percy. 2 awesome titles of 2 of my favorite characters from DC Comics, Nightwing and Green Arrow, and both on the same level of how good they are. That's both they made my personal think that these are the good, best DC Rebirth titles. Why these 2 tied? Because they're just that good. Nightwing is already on its second story. It just wrapped up its second story arc, and it's going to go soon to its third. But I think it's going to be, from what I've heard, the Bloodhaven stuff is not supposed to start until December, I think. And I think there's going to be one more arc before then, so at least Tim Seeley gets some time before he takes the character back to Bloodhaven. But the Rise of Raptor arc, I kind of felt as though this arc would last a little more than 2 issues, but it's still a good title. I can't wait for more stuff Tim Seeley is going to do with the book, and I'm loving what he's doing with Nightwing now, and I love the fact also that he's got his blue and black back. Yeah, the fact he has blue in his outfit instead of red. I know some people didn't really care for the red in the outfit, but the Kyle Higgins run for Nightwing was still a really damn good book. And as for this book, despite the fact that they just pretty much gave him pretty much a similar looking costume, I mean, the current Nightwing costume, one change they made, aside from the fact that the red switch out for blue, is the fact the unnecessary lines that Jim Lee gave him back for issue 1 are gone. Yeah, the lines, the unnecessary lines in the costume are all gone. It feels very smooth costume. Now, it may not be his costume he had from his Volume 2 run that was done by Chuck Dixon, Devin Grayson. I don't remember who the writer was for Blood Brothers. Marv Wolfman and Peter J. Tomasi. That run. That 152-issue run, which I do enjoy, by the way. It may not be that costume, but it's very similar to that. Just a bit more updated, in a way. So, I'm happy that he's got his blue and black back. Heck, even Dan DiDio admitted that switching out the red for black was actually a mistake. Just like he did with the other character that was a mistake did with him. Which I'll talk about in a minute. But Nightwing, awesome title, and it's 7 issues in. And it's really good. And I highly recommend it. All right, and the other one that's tied for this is Green Arrow. 10 issues in, and guess which number story it's on? 4. Yes, it's on its 4th story arc. The first story arc was 5 issues. The second story arc, which featured basically a filler for Emiko, that was 2 issues. And then you had 2 issues focused on the island, and now he's back in Seattle. And the storyline is called Murder on the Empire Express. And it kind of feels like that Ben Percy is a fan of the Mike Grell run for Green Arrow. Because, well, he brought in Eddie Fires. And this is the first time that I have seen him in this continuity. And I've read every single issue of Green Arrow that's ever came out. Especially for the previous line. Eddie Fires didn't show up any time during the previous line. Yet, issue 10 was the first time he ever showed up. I'm happy he's in there. And the way he looks, it's like no change. Yeah. I mean, Eddie Fires, the way he's drawn is not different how he was drawn during when the last time he showed up in the comics, which is during Chuck Dixon's awesome run for Green Arrow. So no change in how he is drawn, but he's dressed differently, which I don't mind that. But he's drawn pretty much like red hair, red mustache. He's still kind of bulky, which I do appreciate the artist actually doing. I don't remember who the artist is for the book, but it's still really good. And I do appreciate it. And as a matter of fact, when issue 10 came out, it actually made my top 10. Yeah, it did. Surprisingly, when I started doing top 10s as of last month, this one actually made it to my top 10. It was actually pretty close, number 1, when it came out. I guess it was so good of an issue. And I love the Emiko 2-parter because it kind of felt like that DC didn't have done much with Emiko, and then Ben Percy with this volume was like, okay, let's just have a 2-parter focused on Emiko, of what she is up to since the first arc happened. So my guess is that the Island of Scars 2-parter, which my guess is was supposed to be next, right after the Fall of Green Arrow storyline, which took out the first 5 issues. My guess is that Island of Scars was not ready yet. So my guess is that Ben Percy was like, okay, this storyline is not ready yet. Let's just have a 2-parter till it gets to the Island of Scars. Let's just take a break from Green Arrow, have a couple issues focused on Emiko, which features the Green Arrow in the supporting role. Okay. Kind of similar to what Matt Fraction did with Hawkeye, where he had some issues focused on Kate Bishop. Similarly, do I think Emiko should get spin off her own book? Yes. And please, Ben Percy, give her a freaking code name, for crying out loud. Yeah, heck, I wouldn't mind if she's called, I don't know. I mean, calling her Emiko, especially in costume, is kind of dumb. And also, I don't know if anybody noticed this, but is it just me, or did the artist age up Emiko? Because I kind of feel as though that she's been in between volumes 5 and 6 of Green Arrow, it's like she's aged 2 years. I'm not kidding. If you look at how she was drawn when Ben Percy started his run, she looked pretty much the same as she did during the Jeff Lemire run and Andrew Kensberg run. And then in this volume, she's like, okay, let's just age her up 2 years, make her drop that gorgeous for a teenager, and stuff like that. Which, okay, fine. I kind of wish she brought back Mira Dearden, because she was mysteriously dropped in the book. I'm happy the fact he brought back John Diggle. My guess is the reason why he brought back John Diggle is because he got a bunch of complaints about dropping him from the title, because people actually like the comic book version of John Diggle, just like they like him on the show. Okay, so that's my theory of why they actually that's why the reason why he brought the character back, even though he took a lot of the Arrow stuff, Arrow TV show elements out of the comic. You could have kept John Diggle. He was still an interesting character. Heck, even Lemire and Kensberg wrote it to be interesting. But I'm happy the fact he's back, and I'm hoping that all the bad stuff that's happened to Oliver gets fixed by this time next year. This whole kind of storyline where Oliver's apparently dead, even though he's really not. I'm hoping this kind of like background plot line actually gets wrapped up probably by February. I'm hoping it probably would do that, but still an awesome title. Okay. Number 3, Action Comics. Excuse me. Which I believe it's in its, like Green Arrow, it's in its 4th story arc already. Because you have the Doomsday arc to start it off with, and you have the 2-parter, which features like the backstory for this new Clark Kent. Then you have something dealing with Lois going back to Daily Planet, and now you have the new story arc dealing with Lex coming back to the title for the first time since the first arc. Now, my guess is that this arc, because of how he's treated in the book, my guess is this takes place before what happens in, not before the actual book itself. My guess is it must have taken place between, I think it's like issues 3 and 4 of Superwoman, because in Superwoman he's basically gone, he's missing. But in Action Comics he's out there. So I do think that this arc takes place between issues 3 and 4. That's my guess where the arc takes place. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but that's where I think that the arc takes place. And it's called The Men of Steel. And Dan Jurgens, wow, this guy, it's like, I didn't point this immediately after what I may have attended my Comic-Con this year, but it kind of feels like that when you read this book, and of course read Superman, Lois, and Clark, it kind of feels like that he has not missed a step, even though it's been like a decade since he's written this particular Superman. And do you know how many comics combined that he has written this Superman, this version of Superman? Overall, let's see. I think he's written this character for almost 2 years now. Yeah, 2 years. Actually, I think it's like a little over a year that he's written this character. He's written a bunch of comics with this character. So, I appreciate the fact DC brought him back on the book. Heck, there was somebody I know who was smiling at the fact Dan Jurgens came back to write Action Comics. Heck, I was excited too. I really enjoyed his work that he did for Superman. So I was so happy to see him come back. Even though the guy is also an artist, the guy is a really good artist. I'm kind of surprised he's not doing the covers, because the guy is a good artist. Even though he probably doesn't have time to do it because he's also the writer of the book. But I think that once in a while, I think that for like once every couple arcs, he should at least do the covers, because Dan Jurgens, aside being a writer, the guy is an artist. He's a great artist. If you check out his run for Superman from the 90s, they're gorgeous books to look at. So maybe he can do the covers for Superman in the future. It's a possibility, but even though it's not Lee Weeks who's doing the artwork, but the artwork is still really good in Action Comics. Alright. That's all I gotta say about that, but it's still an awesome book. Alright. Let's see. Okay. Number 2, Superman, by Pierre J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. Now, somebody thinking, this Superman title? Number 2? Why is it higher than Action Comics? One of my favorite creative teams, Pierre J. Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, is writing this book. And especially since in the most recent issue that came out just this past week, Superman number 10, one of the most hyped books in a while, Damian Wayne meets John Kent. And it was a really damn good issue. And this is probably another one of Tivia's favorite books. Probably on his list. He should probably do list. I'll probably get a little message to him after I finish here, but it's still an awesome book to read. 10 issues in, and I believe it's in its 3rd. I think it just entered its 4th arc, just like Action Comics. But at least the book is moving forward, not spending a long time doing these long-running story arcs like it did with Flash and Aquaman. Despite like those titles being really good, Superman, for the first time in probably a few years, has been good for more than like an issue or two, because it's just a damn good book. That's my personal opinion about it. You can feel how you feel about Superman. I've heard 0 complaints about this run for Superman. And I have heard that Pierre J. Tomasi is doing the writing for Super Sons, so it's going to be good. Him continuing writing John Kenton as well as he is. Alright. And my number 1 DC Rebirth title is Detective Comics by James Tynion IV. Already in its second story arc, which kind of does make sense. I mean, that he would do this, to have the second arc happen right now, despite the fact the book has been going on for a little while. I think the book has been going on for about 11 issues now, over the course of a few months. Now, being 11 issues in does not... actually, yeah, it's 11 issues in. Because the book started with 934, now it's 944. Despite the fact it's 11 issues in, still good. Well, in my opinion, anyways. I didn't have a problem with Monster Men like some people did, but the Rise of the Batman arc, I kind of felt as though that one was necessary to be as long as it was, which was 7 parts. It was completely necessary to do, and of course the next 2 issues were parts of the Monster Man crossover, and now we're in the Victim Syndicate. And plus, I love the team that especially James Tynion assembled for the first arc, which is simply Batman, Batwoman, Spoiler, Orphan, who was Cassandra Cain, and Red Robin. Oh, and of course, Clayface. 6 people. And it was a great opening arc to this run. And it does feel pretty much like a teen book, which something Detective Comics has never been, because when people think of Detective Comics, people think of a Batman solo title. Essentially what it's been for years. And now it's a teen book, which is something different that the book has done over the years. Yeah, it's something different, and I'm loving the fact that they added Batwing to the group, because he was one of the characters I actually wanted Tynion actually to add to the group. Him along with Azrael, maybe even Man-Bat, and Harper if she ever comes out of retirement. Batwing was one of those characters I did want to join, because I love the concept of this group. A team of the Batman-like characters who are vigilantes in Gotham City, working together to protect the city. And they have base operations, the Bat-Fry, I think it's called, which was basically a tower run by Tim Drake before he disappeared. Now, according to in-story, he is dead. The readers know he's very much alive, even though he's not been seen since the end of the first story. He's basically in prison. I would not be surprised if Tynion decided to come back in one of the next couple of arcs. He could come back in the Batwoman Begins arc, which is basically a backdoor pilot to the Batwoman series, the new one, which is going to be written by Marge Bennett, which I tweeted to her that I was looking forward to that title, and I'm happy the fact now even Gambit 96 is even impressed with Detective Comics, how good it is. Now, the thing with Detective Comics with the previous book, during its few writers it had, Tony Santos, I had forgotten what he had done because it's been some time. I reread his issues. I'm like, these issues are actually pretty good, despite the fact the gross opening first issue, but it's still good. You also have stuff like the John Layman run, which was really good. Let's see. The Francis Metapole and Brian Buccellato. Awesome run. Especially with arcs like Icarus, Anarchy. Third arc was not very good, but the first 2 are really good. Heck, I even enjoyed the 2-part filler, filler storyline written by Ben Percy, Terminal. I thought those 2 issues were really good. Even though the first couple issues, period, possibly he took over after Francis Metapole left. First couple issues were just okay, but after that, and of course after Robin War, the book got much better under Pierre J. Tomasi, and the book had good writers and had pretty good memorable stories. I mean, when you think of Tony S. Daniels, what's the first thing you think of? The Joker having his face removed. That's usually a lot of people when people think of his run. I mean, yeah, it did happen. Of course, the end of his run did pretty much sub death to the family. It did. But Tedium's run is 11 issues in, and I'm still enjoying it. Okay? So, wow, 40 minutes going on talking about these books. But that's it for this top 15 DC Rebirth titles. This is my opinion. Tivia, if you're watching this, feel free to do your own version of this because I'm sure you probably have your own personal favorite DC Rebirth titles. I know Edgar is not really a big fan of the DC Rebirth titles that much. He does enjoy Action Comics and Detective. I haven't heard anything if you like the other titles or not. Well, I know he didn't like Wonder Woman that much because he was a bit confused. But Edgar, if you're watching this and if you like some of the DC Rebirth titles besides Action Comics and Detective, feel free to do your own version when you get time. And you too, Tivia, and anybody else who I'm associated with from the Awesome Universe, if you have your own personal favorite DC Rebirth titles, feel free to do a response video to this one of your personal favorite DC Rebirth titles. These are just mine. What are yours? Please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay? But until then, I will see you there. Bye.